Outside, and we are taking our math outside today. We started with a number line where we drew a great big line going down the sidewalk, and then sure to leave a lot of space, and I actually used a ruler measuring device to count out to the increments so that things would divide properly. We started with 0 and then went to 1 and 2 and 3, and I think all the way up to 6. And the idea here is that we're doing basically what we did with the circles, but now with a line. So we went through and we halved all of our increments, and then we halved our halves, and now we are halving our fourths. After we get done with this, we will count each increment. We halved our halves and halved our fourths to get our eighths. We went through and we counted by each increment. We started with 1/2, and we counted 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves, and 6 halves. And then we went through and counted by fourths, and then by eighths. And now we're noticing that some of the increments have several marking several numbers, which is our equivalent fraction. So we're going to talk about more about what we noticed about these. After we went through and talked about equivalence, and I want to note that I know that we're not doing fifths in this, that it doesn't work up in our halving of halves, and I know that we're also missing sevenths, and I didn't do a third of thirds, so we're missing ninths, and that is purposeful because when we are looking at something like 1, and we see that 2 halves and 4 fourths and 8 eighths, it's easy with missing fractions for me to say what would it be for fifths, and she's pretty quick to say it would be 5 fives. So we went ahead and did another number line alongside our other one, and this one was divided by thirds, and then we finished our fraction work with our circles, and we're back outside using our trusty number line. We made a number line 1 through 7, and then she went through and halved everything, and then we counted the halves again. That made for a nice review. And now we're going to begin the 4 processes of adding, subtraction, multiplying, and dividing. And we'll just see how far we get. And we did several addition problems with fractions using halves. And then we went up and practiced subtraction. And then we moved to multiplication using halves, and last was division using halves, whole numbers. We're not doing anything crazy like now. I've had her halves, which gave us our fourths, and now we have a number line of fourths, and we are going to do some math. 6 fourths plus 7 fourths. 13 what?
13 fourths.
13 fourths. Good. We are outside today. It's gorgeous. Take a look at my dogwood. I'm absolutely in love with that. And these azaleas are about done, but they're still pretty. But we are...
The pool feels terrific.
And the pool feels terrific. Okay, so we are doing, constructing a number line from 0 to 1 with our halves, halving fourths, and so forth. So right now, we're using a meter stick, and she is marking fourths by taking half of half. Okay, can you do this one too?
How long do you want them?
That's good. Into how many parts?
4.
Fourths, right. So here's 1/4, and then 2 fourths, and 3 fourths, and 4 fourths. And our fourths are 50 centimeters long, so we were talking about how we can think about money. And if we have 50 cents, which is 2 quarters, and we have that, then when we have 1/4, which is 25. So we're going to mark 25 on our number up into now. Do you want to count?
8.
Eighths, yeah, you already know. Have you done this before?
I've done it like 10 million times.
Okay. Can you count with me? This is 1/8. What's this one? 2/8. What's this one? 3/8. What comes next? 4/8. And then 5/8. And then 7/8. And then what's the last one? Really? We are popping our number line by 8s. Right now she's counting by 8s. Alright, you got one more to get to 8/8. And now we're going to go through and get our blue and count by 4ths. Can you go get your blue? Pop our number line. I don't know if you guys can see this. By 4ths. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 ones. Addie, our purple ones are which one? 8s. How many 8s fit into 1/4? How many do you see? 2. Right. There are 2 8s in 1/4. How many 8s in 1/2? 4. How many 8s in 1? 8. Okay, now let's look at our 4ths. How many 1/4 are there in 1/2? 2. How many 4ths are there in 1? 4. How many 1/2s are there in 1? Is that too easy?
1/2.
Uh-huh. How many halves are there in 4? 1. Or not 4, 1. I'm sorry. 1. Oh, 1/2 in 1/2 is 1. But how many 1/2s are there in 1? The orange line. How to write this in mathematical language. That we have 2 1/8s in 1/4. So multiplication can be replace of. So we have 2 of 1/8 in 1/4. And then 1/4 divided up into 1/8 is 2. So 1/4 can hold 2 of 1/8.